Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian from Audio Excellence. And first of all, before we get started, let me just say I hope everybody is safe and you and your family are doing well. Um, and also, before we go further, please watch our videos. Even if you don't watch them, just press play. Go do whatever it is that you do. The money we get from YouTube, we match it and we donate all of it to the Salvation Army. Right now, they need as much help as they can get. So please help us subscribe, turn on notification, and share the videos. It really helps us. Today we're going to be talking with my friend Ennio Longo. It's the beginning of a series that I thought we should do to enlighten friends and people who are interested in audio about how they can protect and possibly benefit from this current virus crisis that we're all going through. Ennio is a certified financial planner. He's been, he'll tell you a little bit more about himself. Ennio, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, Adrian. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So Ennio, tell us a little bit about yourself. What is it that you do and what is it that your company offers?
So our company is called Financial Wealth Builders, and we are fiduciary financial advisors. We're holistic financial advisors. Essentially what we do is not only the investment part, but we look at your entire financial plan. So it's complete wealth management, everything down from how to create an estate plan, how to take a look at what type of risks you have and minimize those risks, how to protect your assets, how to protect your income. And we take a look at making sure you have enough money for retirement. But also what's really important is that it's not just about the investing and making sure that you have enough money for later on. We want you to enjoy life today. And there's a way that you can structure financial plans so you take advantage of your earnings today and enjoy your life and also have some put away for the future.
Okay, cool. And I know that there are lots and lots of people out there who are certified financial planners. There are companies that specialize in doing the same kinds of things. How are you and your company perhaps different, if there's such a difference? Or what is it that you do differently than other companies do?
Well, one of the things is that we're fee-based. And when you're fee-based, we're essentially working for you. So we don't get commissioned on any of our recommendations that we make for clients. So you know that if I'm making the recommendation for you, it's not because I'm getting compensated one way or another. And we also take the approach of doing the financial plan. So it's not just about what the investment is. We're not necessarily brokers. We're also independents. And as an independent, we put forth our best recommendation. We don't put forth what's known as a suitability standard. And a suitability standard is a standard that the best way to describe it is, Adrian, if you went out for dinner last night and, not now, but maybe a few months, if you went out for dinner last night and asked you, Adrian, how was the restaurant? And you said it was suitable, maybe you don't want to go to that place, right? So you want the best standard. So when people ask me, hey, where do I got to go for audio? The best place, right? Audio excellence. You guys are not suitable. You guys are the best. So we put forth our best recommendation for you.
Okay, and so let's follow up with that a little bit. How does your recommendation become, or how is it based on this suitability, this best recommendation, I guess? What are the research that you do that gives you the confidence to recommend these things?
Okay, so I'm gonna answer that with a story, if your audience would let me do that. And the story is very important because what we want to understand is your financial story. That's the most important thing. The why is the most important thing to us. And we've been in business for 28 years. And we had a client that came to us a while back, and he wanted to do a financial plan. Now, in addition to all the investing that he wanted to do, the most important thing for him was to make sure that his family was taken care of if anything ever happened to him. So Greg was a chiropractor, very active guy. He was cycling all the time. He was physically fit. He had his own practice. And one day he was in the U.S. And he was in the U.S. and he was watching a football game. And after the football game was let out, he was with his friends. He was crossing the street and he gets hit by a car going 40 miles per hour. He was laid out on the floor, and luckily there was a nurse walking by, and she administered emergency life-saving measures to him. And had she not done that and restarted his heart, he wouldn't be with us today. Anyway, what ended up happening was they rushed him to the hospital and his wife flew in. And she was expecting to see a guy with a broken leg. What she saw was a guy who was in a coma.
Wow.
6 fractured ribs, and he broke every limb of his body. He was in a coma for a month, and it took about 2 years for him to recover. So he ended up losing his practice because, well, ultimately, you can't practice. And it's not one of those things where your business can continue without you. But everything else, he didn't lose. His wife was able to take time off work because we had replaced his income for him, because we knew that him taking care of his family was the most important thing. If we just focused on investments, he wouldn't have been able to keep his house. His wife wouldn't have been able to take time off work. And until you get to know the client, until you understand what their financial story is, you cannot structure a plan. So anyway, this story continues because Greg decided that he's going to start a second career as a speaker. So if you want to learn how to be a speaker, what do? You go see the best. And in our opinion, the best is Tony Robbins. So he went to see Tony Robbins, and he came back, and he was so excited that we were able to help him through this rough time. He wanted to share that with us. So he convinced my partner and I to go down to see Tony Robbins back in November of 2017. Now, I read Tony's books, I'd listened to his audio tapes and so forth. That's how far back it goes. Audio tapes. Not even the CDs. I remember the infomercials. And what ended up happening was we went there, and I was kind of I wasn't fully into it when I first arrived. When I left, I was ready to take on the world. Anyway, we're all given a copy of Tony's book, Unshakable. And while I was flying back home, I read the book, and I called my partner up and I said, "This is what we do." And he said, "It is what we do." Now, it so happened that while we were there, he decided that he was going to do Tony's Business Mastery course, which was just a couple of months later. So he took the Business Mastery course, and he saw AJ Gupta, Tony's personal advisor, speak on stage at Business Mastery. And AJ works for a company known as Creative Planning in the US. They're the number one. They've been ranked the number one fiduciary financial planning company in the US for a number of years running. So Paul approached them and said, "You have a lot of Canadians here. What do you do for the Canadians?" And they said, "Well, we really don't have a good option right now." So he said, "You do now." And they said, "Okay, we're intrigued. What's going on?" So we had the conversations, and after about a year's worth of discussions, they realized that we would make a good partner. So as of April of last year, it's actually been about a year, we're now their official partner in Canada from coast to coast. So we have an affiliation with this company that manages $50 billion in the US, affiliated with Tony Robbins as well. And that's an amazing testimonial to the fact that we've been doing the right things. And even more exciting, and I'm going to break some breaking news for your audience, that's good breaking news, is that there's a new book coming out between Tony and the CEO, Peter Mallouk. It's called The Path. The book will be out around the summertime, we're thinking, and we were actually even consulted on the book. So our partnership with them is very strong, and we're very, very proud of it. And besides our clients giving us that vote of confidence, it's nice to know that some of the most intelligent and successful people in the world also agree with our approach.
That's great. Let's go a little bit deeper. You mentioned that your firm looks into the holistic approach rather than just investment. So let's role play a little bit. Let's assume for a moment that a client comes in and says to you, "Help me. I want to develop a plan where we're going to be financially independent in 20, 30 years." What are some of the questions that you would ask, and how would you begin to structure that plan for he and his family?
Okay, so I actually had a webinar with a prospect last night where they're looking at coming on board and they want to know, what can you do for us? So the questions I would ask would be around, what have you done till this point, and what are you happy with, and what would you like to see improved? And as the discussion starts, we start to get into more detail. So these clients, they like to travel a lot. They also want to make sure that they're able to give their kids a head start in life. They also want to make sure that they can retire on time. And what people usually do is that they're not asked these questions. Usually it's very product focused, right? And I kind of relate back.
And what do you mean by product focus?
So it's very product focused in terms of, what should I be investing in? What's the best investment? Should I be investing in this investment or that investment? And I said, we got to take a step back, because the investment is a tool to help you get to where you want to go to. We'll get you into the right stuff, but we need to know what to do first. Because then they'll talk about, do I put it into RSP or a TFSA? Do I buy life insurance? And I said, all of those we'll use if we need to, but we want to understand first. So with these clients, what's important for them is that, for example, they want to take a trip in a couple of years, and they want to be away from their jobs, they want to be away from their house, and they want to travel the world for a year. So that's very, very important to them. So how we structure their financial plan means that we can't lock in their money, that they have to have access to this money. But then there's also concerns that they have, saying, if we take this money for a year and we go traveling, that's going to defer our retirement. And I said, ordinarily, yes. But if you use certain financial strategies, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Because one of the things that's very important that'll get you to where you want to get to in terms of when you do invest is that you have to be in the market, excuse me, and you have to be in there for a certain amount of time. If you keep investing and then taking money out, you're going to delay your compounding, and as a result, you're not going to get to where you want to go. So the question is, can we use their assets today to get them to do the things that they want to do today without deferring their retirement? So you have your current lifestyle that's fighting your future lifestyle, and we have to find a way to make them work together. So if I didn't know that they wanted to, invest in some real estate for their family, for their kids, that they wanted to take a year out, and I just said, put it in this investment, and everything's going to be fine in the future, then if the investment was down when they needed it, because they didn't let me know that, we would have had a problem with the financial plan. So those are the things that are the most important. What do you guys want to do? What's most important to you? And based on that, we'll structure it with the financial products. So, for a lot of your audience, they're all big audio guys. I'm an audio guy, as you can see by my background, right? And if somebody comes in and says, Adrian, what's the best speaker? You're going to ask them a lot of questions, right? You're going to ask them about the room. You're going to ask them about the budget. You might ask them about the music, and they're going to try on a lot of different things. So there's not one right answer. It's an exploratory process. And I really say, what is your financial story? What do you want to see? What, in 20 years and 30 years and 40 years, what do you want to look back on and say, yeah, I did this and I was able to do this with my money? And anything from working for your family, for yourself, for charity, whatever that might be.
So that brings us to today with the coronavirus crisis that's happening right now all over the world. Can you give our audience now maybe some specifics? We've talked in general at this point. Can you give them some examples, some specifics about what they can do if they've got investments already in the market? What should they be doing or not doing? And what they should be doing perhaps longer term, because this too will pass. Any suggestions, any hints?
Yeah, I'm going to preface that by saying the advice that I'm giving right now is very generalized, and you really should consult a professional. If you want to contact me, I think Jerry's going to be giving out my information at the end, but anything that I'm recommending right now is just general and is not specific to any one person. So that's very important to talk about. But you're right, this too shall pass. And what's important is, if you're not able to do anything right now because you haven't prepared yourself for something like this, I'll tell you that something like this will happen again. Not necessarily a pandemic, but what we refer to as a bear market, which the last one was in 2009. And you have to prepare yourself in your portfolio and your financial plan for bear markets to happen, because you can take advantage of bear markets. So for my clients right now, a lot of them are rebalancing, and we're taking money from fixed income and we're putting it into equities because it allows us to buy very good investments at a lower price. So things are on sale. If you had a sale at your store, people would be coming in. It seems that usually if there's a sale on the stock market, people go, no, I want to pay a higher price. So we're showing them how to invest properly. But your portfolio has to be set up properly from the start. What this is also showing people, and whether it's business owners or personal people, is something that we've always advocated, and that's you should always have 6 months worth of income of your salary put aside in something that's not even the market, in something that's very, very safe. It might even be a line of credit that you can access. Because right now there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety because of our health, And there's also a lot of anxiety because of our finances. The people that have 6 months worth of salary put aside, even if they're laid off, they know at the very least that if their income's been reduced, and even if they're getting some employment insurance, that ultimately they can weather this out for at least 6 months. And that's very important. Now's the worst time to dive into your investments and to sell off if you need the money because of your income has stopped, because you're going to probably be selling at a loss. That's probably the area. So that's why structuring a financial plan is very important. And people get really excited. They got some money and say, I want to start investing, I want to start investing. Well, if at this point, everybody starts to realize, I need to put some money aside. Now, I realize that not everybody can do it, but if you have the means, just start to put that money aside. So you got 6 months worth of income put aside, and you'll be okay if something like this happens again. And somebody said to me, it's different this time. I said, yeah, it's very different this time. And it was different in 2009, and it was different at 9/11, and it was different during the tech bubble. But what's really interesting this time, and I'd like to share this with everybody who's watching, is the fact that this, I guess, pre-recession is driven by a lack of supply.
You broke up for a second. Lack of what?
Lack of supply, not a lack of demand. So recessions are usually driven by a lack of demand, which means that people aren't going to restaurants because they don't want to go to restaurants. People want to go to restaurants. People want to go out. They just can't. So you get the feeling that, when the all clears comes out, or the things are lifted and we feel more comfortable, that people are going to return to those going out and being social or buying the products they want to buy. Ultimately the stock market is, people want to buy stuff, right? We're consumers by nature. People want to buy stuff, and we're being deprived of that right now. And as soon as everything kind of returns to semi-normal, we're going to start buying stuff again. And things are going to recover. How long it's going to take, we don't know. And we never know. We never guess. But if you look at it over the course of the long run, which we tend to do, it'll recover. And then this will just be a footnote, essentially, saying, you remember when we had that downturn because of COVID, and we had that downturn because of the housing crisis, etc.
So let's leave the viewers with one very specific example. You had mentioned about putting money away for 6 months. What are 2 or 3 vehicles that you would recommend your clients to do that they could put their money into some form of liquid investment or savings that they would have easy access to if they needed the money, without having to sell assets and so on, and therefore trigger capital gains or worse, taxes, not taxes, but having to pay to take the money out?
So one of the things that we could look at is always a home equity line of credit. I always encourage clients, or I often encourage clients to say, if you have some equity in your house, put a home equity line of credit on there. That's not to say that you're going to use it, and that's not to say that you're going to go out and you're going to spend frivolously. What that really means is that in times of emergency or in times of opportunity, you have access to some money. So some people are using it right now. I have clients who their jobs are continuing because they're essential, so they have no concern about their income. They might be using that to invest right now. And of course, consult somebody before you do that. But that's always an option, because it's at times like this that people will find opportunities, and if they have access to those funds. Alternatively, if you don't like that route, something like a high interest savings account. So something that is not necessarily in your bank account that's paying you very, very minimal amounts, something that is 1%, but it's easily accessible. I don't like the idea of a GIC that locks you in. If it's a redeemable GIC, that's fine. If you want to take a little bit more risk in order to try and get some return, maybe you look at some type of globally diversified bond that doesn't have a lot of volatility, but even a bond has some volatility. And then, of course, this is situation dependent. I have some clients that have a good amount of money in non-registered investments, which means non-TFSA or non-RSP, and they have what's known as a margin account. And with margin accounts, you can borrow against those accounts if you need to in case of an emergency. But that's not for everybody. That's situation specific. So those are areas that we would look at. And other areas, for example, is cash value and life insurance. So for those who have whole life policies, they could borrow against the life insurance. And the great thing is that they don't necessarily have to pay it back in any specific time. So there's a lot of options. It just depends on how your plan is structured. And that's one component of your plan that we would structure to make sure that you do have some emergency funds, as opposed to all the other things that you have to do.
Great. Well, everybody, we'll cut it for today, and we'll continue to meet with Ennio on a regular basis, where he can give us more insights about how to protect your money and how to grow it over time. And I'll make sure that either Jay or Jerry will link Ennio's contact information in the description box. So if you are, Ennio, do you help people all through Canada or all through North America, or is it specifically Ontario, Toronto?
No, it's all of Canada.
Okay, so we'll make sure that.
Yep.
Sorry, I cut you off. What was that?
Anywhere from British Columbia all the way to Newfoundland.
Great. I'll make sure that the boys link his contact information in the description box. And so if you're a Canadian, if you live in Canada and you have any questions more specifically, you can reach out to Ennio for his advice. And as Ennio had mentioned, I think earlier, you can even do Skype and do a video help if you're not local with him, and especially now since we have to keep a 6-foot distance. Ennio, thank you very much for joining us, guys. If you like this video, even if you don't, please share it so that, again, the funds that we get from YouTube, we match it and we donate it to the Salvation Army, and we really appreciate your help in doing so. Thanks very much, Ennio. We'll see you again soon. Take care.
Adrian, stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.